moving along really quick.
Yeah. Well, we've got, do you want to talk? Okay, well, Jenny managed with some contacts she has to secure some telephone poles, which are a great height for bat houses because we like to be about 20 feet up. And Juliet Craig from Kootenai Bats has got some funding to reimburse folks for the material costs.
Hopefully, because it's
Or some of
community
it.
trust.
Yeah. So some of it. And she provided also templates for bat house designs for what they call a rocket box, which is kind of like a regular bat house. And then a nursery box, which is for the youngins and all that kind of stuff. So in discussion with Jenny, could you talk to the Woodward Deal? Why don't you just...
Okay. Okay. There's been a lot of interest in bats, and there's a lot of of course, people don't like bats. Even in the Interior Health put out a bulletin not too long ago, and in it says, if you have bats, call an exterminator.
Right.
And get them.
And rabies and all that kind
And
of
the
stuff.
whole rabies things, it's a total myth. There's been 25 people in the last century in North America who's gotten rabies from bats. Anyways, a lot of people get bats in their attics and they hate them, but the guano is actually very helpful for fertilizer and whatnot. So we just started talking about bats. The Boundary Museum Society's got some bat houses as well already that Brian Taylor actually had and donated to them. And then Christine Lake Stewardship Society is really interested too. So all this interest in bats. So we thought that the city might benefit from having a few bat houses for educational purposes, and also they are awesome mosquito control.
Yeah,
A single bat will eat up to 200 insects a day. So
Even more. I've heard like 600.
Yeah.
Like tons.
Yeah.
Tons. So Gary thought that it would be great to get a couple houses up within the city of Grand Forks. So he thought perhaps by the swamp behind the cemetery, or wetland behind the cemetery. Swamp's a negative connotation.
Yeah.
The wetland by the cemetery and the wetland along the Trans-Canada Trail between the highway and Kettle River Drive. There's a wetland in there. There's a lot of mosquitoes. So, and then the Woodworkers Guild, my connection to the Boundary Museum Society, and them are willing to cut out some templates. If we get the material for them, they'll cut out the templates, and then we were thinking of trying to involve some kind of youth group. We're not exactly sure who the target will be. Perhaps Girl Guides. I know the Boundary Museum Society really wants to start a small environmental youth group. So
high school biology.
High school biology, or even just public, whoever wants to come and learn how to build bat houses. We'll put them together, and then maybe the city can provide their pole truck, and because we already have poles, they're sitting in my mom's driveway, and get them up. And for monitoring, and we do want to follow up on them and monitor them to see if they are being used and if they're successful, and that can be done next summer.
Okay. And since we have 3 or 4 different kinds, like the ones that are already at the museum are slightly different than the ones we've got templates for, finding out which ones are best suited for the bats that we have.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of a, when researchers involved as well, just to see what,
So none of these would be installed until next summer?
Well, hopefully we could get them up ASAP.
Yeah.
Okay, because you have some ready already.
I want one pole and the bat houses that I have for Saddle Lake, since they were kind of.
So that leaves the city with 4 poles.
We
could have 2 at each of the 2 locations. So a nursery box, a rocket box at the, where'd you call it? Not a swamp. Wetland behind the cemetery, and then another rocket box and nursery box along the trail between Boundary and Kettle River Drive.
So you got 4 left to put up?
4 to put up, yeah.
And we priced materials out to be $225, but we're thinking incidentals and whatnot, perhaps like 4.
Well, no, because it was $150 for each of the, so that's $300, and then 75.
Right, 500 we're thinking.
Yeah, 500 we were thinking for the cost of the materials and then incidentals. And then if it's okay with this group, then I will present it to council to see if they'll do in kind in terms of just getting the whole truck up there.
Okay. So do you want to bring a motion?
That's my
to
motion.
the committee? Okay.
That this committee support the direction of 4 bat houses for a maximum cost of $500.
And do we have a seconder? Paul? Paul Bernard, second. Any further discussion?
I got a couple
Peter?
of questions about this. I was thinking about this last time, and maybe you can help enlighten me a little bit. I know at one time, perhaps not within the Grand Forks city limits, but say out at the golf course, they were doing mosquito spraying.
Right.
Does that go on in the Grand Forks area? Some of these areas, it does. So
Yes,
we're
sir.
spraying the mosquitoes.
We're spraying the larvae. We're spraying the larvae. And I understand that the product is permethrin, or permethrin, which is synthetic permethrin, a derivative of the chrysanthemum plant.
Yeah. Okay.
That's my understanding.
My question though is, if we're trying to promote the increase in the bat population, I'm totally for that, by the way. But if we're contradicting ourselves by taking away the food supply that they're going to need to eat, we may be kind of barking up the wrong tree trying to put up bat houses when they don't have enough to eat in the first place. There is quite a bit of competition. I know I live out just on the Gardens West, and on any evening in the summertime out there, the air is just filled with nighthawks and swallows, both of which eat mosquitoes by the thousands. And I just wonder whether we have enough mosquitoes left to
You know,
support
I live there, and I can tell you, yes.
Well, I have to ask because I know I have very few mosquitoes where I live.
Oh, is that right? Well, you're fortunate.
Lucky me.
Well, maybe it's because of all these nighthawks and swallows that are around.
Like I live right on top of 66 and Kettle River Drive, just before you head down to the flats. So I'm 2 properties away from the wetland. And then, of course, that other wetland on the path is there as well. And, you know, there's enough water, and I chasing my dog, I filled my shoes and then been half bitten to death by the mosquitoes. So there's tons. And those areas are not treated by the helicopter. So they're basically up to nature to take care of that. And I thought about that because, you know, if they are spraying, you know, if that would kind of go down the food chain. So.
And you get
it's also not really good for bats.
yeah, and you get seasons like this year where we have so much rain.
Well, yeah,
Historically we did, but it's been very dry.
Yeah,
Just an observation, going back to that Merit Mining, they hired an environmental study, and one of the first concerns of the scientists was the fact, and I just hadn't really paid attention, that there was the bats were endangered and they were disappearing. So before they opened up these mine shafts again, they had to study and make sure that if it had become a bat habitat, then game over. They weren't going to allow them to do this. And I went, yeah, you know, that's right. We used to have, every night, like I live up the mountain there, there'd be bats everywhere. Like they just always there.
Yeah.
And we would get them staying the daytime in our sheds and things. Any little dark corner, you'd find them in the daytime. And
Right.
It's been years, and all of a sudden, so what happened to the bats? Because where I am, nobody's spraying or doing anything.
Right.
Nothing has changed that man would interfere with. I'm in the wilderness. So it is interesting what's happened to the bats.
And maybe it's just because, you know, they're losing their habitat, or, you know, it's hard to,
It's
you know,
mostly
without saying.
habitat loss.
Yeah.
You can attribute these things to mostly.
But what was their natural habitat? Bat caves?
There's caves and also like old trees.
Yeah.
And
With loose
whatnot.
bark. The big old trees with loose bark.
Bark, yeah. Old growth forest.
If firewood cutters are taking down dead trees,
Right.
there's a loss of potential bad habitat and secondary nesters and all that kind of stuff. So.
I know one place I found a lot of them. I was renovating the end of a house, and it was all shakes. And there was like 10 bats. And they were living up they were big, rough shakes, and they seemed to really like that habitat. So maybe it's a lack of old barns. I don't know. But
And we hope this will also become like an educational project, so that if people do have bats, then they can contact us and we can come and help them get their bats out of their attic if they don't want them in there, but provide an alternate. like provide them a bat house or something, so it's just the beginning of a bigger project.
Yeah.
I really like that idea of having an educational day, not just limiting it to kids in school. I like that back box building day,
Yeah.
invite the public and
Yeah.
be educational and fun.
And the Ontario is actually, their bat population has been decimated by the white nose syndrome. It's a fungus that it's, I think, originated from Asia, and it's made it over here, and Ontario has pretty much lost their entire bat population. And this fungus gets in their nose, and it's an irritant, and when they're hibernating in the wintertime, it wakes them up, and then their metabolism comes up, and then they just die. But this fungus is moving westward, and they're hoping that the Rocky Mountains is what's going to prevent it from moving into BC, but yeah.
Well,
Okay,
there's
so
a concern that it will spread to other wildlife if it does come out with bats.
Yeah.
we have a motion on the floor. We have a seconder. Any further discussion? I think I would like you to touch base with Cheryl Unger too, with Interior Health. They sit at the table here too. You said they put out an
They're
article
about
in the
rabies.
newspaper?
We should note that the insect eaters that we're trying to attract, they can't puncture your skin.
Yeah.
You know, so
Fruit bats, aren't they?
Well, there's
No.
different kinds of
Yeah, there's
bats.
different bats. We have, what, 4 or 5
Yeah.
species
Well, I
here?
guess there's bug bats.
So-
But they're bug bats, yeah.
Yeah.
The little brown bats.
Little brown.
And they don't have the power in their jaws. They're insectivores, right? So they don't even have the power to puncture your skin unless you have one hanging off your lip. And, you know, good luck.
Okay, so can I call the question? All those in favor? Carried. Excellent. And maybe just, touch base with
Yeah.
Cheryl, because she has been absent from the last couple of
Sure,
meetings. just
sure, Unger.
To let her know where these bat houses and that are
Yeah.
going as well. And we'll circulate
On the
it.
hospital.